Alright, we're going to begin tonight. We're going to be doing Parashat Beshalach. Beshalach is a very interesting parasha because of the Kriyat Yam Suf, especially because of the splitting of the Red Sea. The splitting of the Red Sea represents a very important stage in the Exodus, in the Geulah of Egypt. And because of its importance, as you know, there is an extension of the holiday of Pesach, Passover. Not only do we celebrate Pesach for the entire 7 days, but the very, very last day, Shvi'i Shel Pesach, the 7th day of Pesach, and outside of Israel, the celebration is 2 days. It is an important celebration because of the extra miracle, the unique miracle that occurred at that point. But it's not just about the miracle. The whole Pesach is miraculous. It is a stage in the growth and the development of the Jewish nation as they proceed towards the goal of Kabbalat Torah, receiving the Torah. So therefore, Shvi'i Shel Pesach, that particular day, even though it's not exactly a separate holiday, I call it an extension because of its importance. It stands out as something apart from the actual Yetziat, from the actual Exodus of Egypt. In the very beginning of the Parasha, the Torah tells us that Hashem could have taken the shortcut out of Egypt towards Israel. There's a shortcut, a short path. If you go on the northern part of the Sinai Peninsula, even today, you can take the bus from Tel Aviv to Cairo. You're not going to go through all the desert. You're definitely not going to make a long detour like they did. And you pretty much can cross the entire peninsula in the northern part of the country, in the northern part of the peninsula. Hashem did not take them through that short path. Maybe they will run into battle. They may run into battle right away, right after they came out of Egypt. And if they were to see battle right away, they would be discouraged. They would perhaps want to go back to Egypt. They're not completely disconnected yet from Egypt, and it would be too soon for them to be involved in some battle. Remember, there are many, many battles awaiting them, including the battles to conquer the land. So why introduce them to battle right away? They're not used to it yet. They're not equipped for that, perhaps. And they definitely don't have the stamina. These are slaves that just became free. So Hashem says, I'm not going to let them go through the short path. I'm going to take them through a longer path. Now, obviously, there are other reasons why Hashem did so. But at least that is one. In other words, we are told that they could have been very, very much discouraged had they gone through that path. And Hashem wants to minimize that struggle that they're going to have. As it is, they have many struggles. Hashem doesn't want to make it any more difficult, and therefore, He takes them the longer path. But what's interesting is that even though the Torah says they're going to take the longer path to avoid battle, they immediately confront Amalek. Pretty much at the very, very beginning of their journey, they're already in battle with Amalek. And who's Amalek? Amalek is the arch enemy of the Jews. This is an enemy that doesn't wait for the Jew to come to him. He goes looking for him. Which is interesting. What do you want from them? They didn't do anything to you. Amalek is introduced to the Jewish people at this point because they are the arch enemy. Whatever the Jew represents, Amalek represents the opposite. That's why I call them the arch enemy, not just of Jew, the arch enemy of Judaism. Because Amalek, I guess subconsciously, is aware that Jewish people are about to receive the Torah. And the Torah is not just something for them. They're going to be a light unto the nations. They're going to be teachers. This is a way of life which Amalek is against. Remember, Amalek is opposed to whatever Judaism is for. And if you want to have more or less an idea of what Amalek represents and why the Torah commands us to get rid of them as much as possible, I have a whole lecture on who Amalek is, can we identify him, and why is there such a commandment to get rid of him like none other. Separate lecture, so we're not going to get too much into the detail of what exactly Amalek is, except for that he is the arch enemy of the Jews. This battle is not a typical battle. It's more a battle of survival. In other words, the reason why the Jew has to face this battle, even though Hashem is trying to avoid them from going to war, is because this is an important battle for them to learn from. They have to get to know who this enemy is, because their survival, especially their spiritual survival, very much depends on how they wage war with Amalek. If they try to just make peace with him, if they try to avoid him, no. In other words, a lot of what's going to happen to the Jewish people in the future will depend on how they see Amalek. Do they fight him or not? So that is why this is an important battle. Through this battle, Hashem teaches the Jewish people that life is full of many battles. We're very much familiar with the battle of the Yetzer Hara, of the evil inclination. That is a constant battle that every human being has, not just a Jew. A constant battle with his evil inclination from the day he's born till the day he dies. But there are other battles too, even though they may not be called battles, but they are. Struggles. One struggles with parnasa, his livelihood. That's a sort of a battle too. Sometimes he may have to do battle with a neighbor, unfortunately. All kinds of hardships in life that we go through. And sometimes it could be a real battle with an enemy. Sometimes even in one's own home, husband and wife will unfortunately fight. That's also a type of battle. Many, many kinds of battles that man goes through his life. The chokhmah, however, the intelligent thing to know is which battle does it pay for us to fight and which battle does it pay for us to just avoid at all costs. Don't fight it. That's a little tricky. That takes a little bit of intelligence. What battle should I avoid? And just try to reconcile it and just not deal with it. That's tricky. The important thing for the Jew to know, however, is that the most important battle, the one that really will make a difference, the one that he should always fight, is the battle against that which is evil. Because Amalek embodies evil. So whenever there is a battle against evil, you should know that that is a legitimate battle. That is a battle that you don't want to avoid because you want to defeat evil. You want to fight against it. You definitely don't want to join it. And if you don't protest and you don't do anything, you may lose. So sometimes we have no choice. The battle against Amalek involves this kind of a battle against evil, against what they represent. We don't really have a choice. The Torah is telling us this is a war that you have to fight. The danger of Amalek, however, even though there's always a physical danger, and we see that from the story of Purim, Haman, who is from the seed of Amalek, wanted to destroy the Jewish people physically. But the real danger that Amalek poses is spiritual. They want to destroy the Jewish cause. They don't want the Jewish cause to succeed. They want their philosophy to be accepted. And that's completely opposite to what the Torah teaches. All you have to do is look at what the Nazis taught and what they believed to get a little bit of an idea of what Amalek believes in. Because it's pretty much the same. Now, the way Amalek attempts to wage war is not necessarily with tanks and missiles. No. It could be through propaganda too. And if there could be one word that describes his weapon of choice is shehu mitlotzetz. He makes fun. If you want to know where you can see this in Tehillim, in the very first verse of Tehillim, David HaMelech reminds us of how dangerous it is to associate with certain people. And he says as follows, Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach b'atzat reshaim, v'derech hata'im lo hamad, u'v'moshav letzim lo yashav. Fortunate is the man who has not walked in the counsel of the wicked. That sounds right, the wicked. Nor stood in the path of sinners. That makes sense. But look at the last one. Nor did he sit in the company of scoffers, or mockers, clowns, those that make fun of anything that's holy, anything that's a good deed, anything that's a mitzvah. They make fun. And you know, a lot of people have a hard time doing teshuvah, repenting, becoming stronger in their devotion to Judaism because of these scoffers. They make fun. They're not strong enough. It's pressure. But that's the symptom of Amalek, to cool off the Jew from his excitement, from his enthusiasm, from his will, from his wanting to do a mitzvah. And Amalek somehow downplays it, minimizes, makes fun of it. This is his shita. This is one of his strategies that he uses. And he could be very, very tricky, dangerous. Remember, he is against this. He's not just not interested, or does he perhaps doubt it if it's true? No. He may even know that this is true, but he doesn't want it. He's against it. He will fight it. And whenever you see that kind of opposition that's very, very strongly against that which is spiritual nature, you should know that that could be coming from Amalek. Be careful with that. The influence of Amalek is therefore very, very dangerous, very destructive. Because what does he do to a Jew? What does he at least attempt to do to a Jew? Is to cool him off and to disconnect him, to detach him from his connection to God, from his connection to the Torah, from his connection to the mitzvot. Amalek will try anything he can to get the Jew to disconnect. It may even come in the form of a decree from a government agency. You say, government? Probably they mean well. No, you never know. No Torah learning. This happened in the past many times through various empires, nations, wherever the Jew was, they had to deal with this problem. What do you care if I learn my Torah, if I observe my mitzvot? I'm a good citizen, I pay my taxes. Yes, but we're talking about Amalek. If it's Amalek, he's against anything of that. Because to him, this is a danger to him. He sees this, he views the Torah, he views the Jew as a danger to him. And therefore, he's a danger to us. And he's a danger to the Jewish identity, because what he will attempt to do is to make the Jew forget who he is. Because he will do whatever he can to make the Jew forget his identity, the Jew's identity. The Torah was very, very strict. A very interesting commandment. The Torah tells us about Amalek: obliterate his memory. Lo tishkach, don't forget. Don't forget. Why should I forget? Yeah, you can easily forget. You might think, well, times have changed, let's be friends. Why not? Isn't that nice? After all, Judaism teaches about the pursuit of peace. You want to be in peace with everybody. Definitely, it's definitely true, but not with Amalek. Because Amalek is not about peace. And even though he may smile at you, remember, he's your arch enemy. So therefore, lo tishkach, don't forget who he is, if you can recognize him. Don't forget what he did to you in the past, what he wants to do to you in the present. Nothing has changed. Amalek will always remain a very powerful enemy until the end of days. So, because we may run into this problem that Amalek may attempt to cool us off, and we may forget who we are and what we represent, the Torah immediately, Hashem, right away, as soon as we leave Egypt, gives us mitzvot. He gives us certain commandments. Here, take this commandment, take this commandment. What for? The commandments at least give us some sense of direction. This is what we need to accomplish. This is where we're headed. It gives us a little bit of a sense of who we are and what we're supposed to do. So even though forgetfulness is sometimes a good thing, you want to forget your pain. The rabbis tell us that Hashem put it into our nature, the nature of you and me, that we should forget when somebody who was dear to us and passed away, that we should little by little forget the pain. The pain dissipates. That's a good thing. Imagine living with that pain for the rest of your life. It would be unbearable. So sometimes forgetfulness is good, but not with Amalek. The reason why the Torah doesn't want us to ever forget is because not only because the danger is always there, not only because of that, but also because of what one great rabbi once said, that the biggest sin for a Jew, shu shochach shu ben melech, that he forgets that he's the son of a king. He's a prince. Do you know who you are? You know where you come from? A lot of Jews don't know. They have forgotten who they are. How? Through Amalek. Amalek in his many, many ways makes the Jew forget his identity. That is why he's so dangerous. But what we're going to do now is talk a little bit about those Jews who know what it means to be Jewish. They may be even observant, and even they forget. They don't have complete clarity. They don't really always know what is their tachlit, what is the purpose of life, what are they here for, what are they doing, what do they need to accomplish. They just know they need to observe the mitzvot, they're Jewish, they better do this. But they don't really have clarity. They have forgotten what is the tachlit, what is the purpose of life. That they don't know clearly. And you know what's unfortunate, what's very sad about them? They are the first victims, they are the first potential victims of Amalek. When Amalek goes after the Jew, you think he's going to go after the rabbi? No. He's going to go after the weak link. Just like animals who prey, they're not going to try to catch the strongest, healthiest animal. They're going to go after the calf, the young ones, the sick ones. It's easier. The Torah knows that there will always be, unfortunately, weak people, weak in their emunah. And they can be victims of Amalek. They can fall. And what happens when a Jew is weak? Not only does he forget who he is, he has no clue what he lives for. What are you here for? What do you need to do? I like to give the mashal, the example of somebody getting on a bus, sitting down, paying. And if you ask him, sir, where are you going? I don't know. Have you ever heard of something like that? Yeah. Somebody gets on a bus, pays, and doesn't know where he's going, so why are you getting on a bus? We are born, we came into this world, and a lot of people do not know why. What for? Why did God create us? Why did God put us over here? What does he expect of us? Now we, the Jewish people, we have the book, so we have the script. It's like a manual of instructions on how to use the equipment, sophisticated equipment you have here. Life is sophisticated, yes. Tremendous responsibility, and you don't know how to use the equipment. You don't know where you're going. That's what happens when a Jew has no clarity of what is the tachlit, what is the purpose of life. So not only is he in danger of falling, of becoming victim to Amalek, and to similar negative influences, he simply will not accomplish what he is meant to accomplish. So, upon leaving Egypt, what do you expect? You have all kinds of people. You have stronger ones and weaker ones. Who are the weak ones? The ones that are complaining. Right? If you read the Parashiot, you will find quite a few times many Jews complaining for all kinds of things, even about watermelon. We remember the watermelon. That's strange. Why talk about watermelon? All kinds of complaints. What does it tell you? What's the common denominator of all the complaints? They were focusing on what they don't have instead of what they have. What do you have now? Or what are you about to have? You're about to have the Torah. You're about to have a beautiful relationship with God. But you're focusing instead on what you don't have. I don't have watermelons. Could you understand this? Now, we're not, of course, blaming them. Remember, they have the mentality of slaves. They're not yet ingrained with Torah values. They're slowly but surely maturing and growing. Yes, but these are invaluable lessons for us because we go through this all the time. We see people like that complain about silly things. Silly things. Instead of focusing on what's really important in life, they focus on all the shtuyot, and all the nonsense and all the vanity. So that's why I say they're focusing on what they don't have instead of thinking a little bit, well, this is what I do have. And perhaps what I do have is more important than what I don't have. Where do you see this? When people say, Avodah chayenu, life is about work. You have to work for a living. Everything is about work, 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 work. So in order for the Jew to disassociate himself from that kind of thinking, that physical labor is not what life is all about, Hashem right away gave us the mitzvah of Shabbat. Pretty much in the beginning. You're going to rest one day a week. Because life is not only about work, 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 money, money, money. No, that's not what Shabbat is all about. Shabbat, being the seventh day, represents the tachlit, represents the ultimate purpose of life. We're working here for 6 days, for 6,000 years, towards the seventh. This is where we're headed. We're headed towards Shabbat u'Menucha, to a life that will be of tranquility, of peace, of no more war and struggle. So Shabbat reminds us not only that Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested on 7, which is true as well, but Shabbat is the tachlit. That is why for us Shabbat is at the end of the week. If that's the case, then those people that complain should have realized it at some point. They should have realized that this is the tachlit, not the food. Shabbat, the Torah. But what did we just say? They still have the slave mentality. What is the slave mentality? Let's run away from slavery. What's on their mind right now is to run away from Avdut. If that's what you're thinking about, I just want to get out of there, I just want to run away from that, you're not really focused on where you want to go. Where do we see this? From Hagar. Remember Hagar, the second wife of Abraham, the maid of Abraham? Sarah, the wife of Abraham, gave her a hard time, so she ran away. Remember that? When she ran away, she meets up with an angel. And the angel asks her, Hagar, where are you running from and where are you going? She only answered the first question, running away from Sarah. But she didn't answer the second question of the malach, of the angel, where she's headed, because she didn't know where she's going. All she was thinking about is that she's running away. That she knew. She's trying to get away from Sarah, who's giving her a hard time. But where is she going? She has no clue. She does not know. And that is exactly what happens with certain individuals. They're trying to run away. They're trying to solve certain problems, perhaps, not realizing where they're supposed to be headed. What is the goal of life? What are you supposed to accomplish? People get married. Do they know what they're trying to accomplish? No, not necessarily, unless they have good direction and clarity of purpose. What is this all about? The responsibilities involved, the building of a Jewish home, the family, the children, future generations, what this means. And of course, if you have more clarity, then you're able to deal with differences, you're able to deal with difficulties, you're able to deal with issues that arise. But without that clarity, everything becomes a problem. How come I don't have this? How come this is not this way? What are you complaining about? You're headed towards the finish line. There's a goal that you need to accomplish. Cooperate and you'll get there. Hashem will help. Obviously, depending on what the issues are. It's important to focus. What do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? And that applies to anything. But sometimes, even when we may know what the tachlit is, what the purpose of life is, it may not be sufficient. Why? Because a person may still be connected to his past. He may still have memories of past experiences, or he may have hesitations. A lot of Jews, when they left Egypt, they had hesitations, they had fears and insecurities. Oh no, the Egyptians are coming. Oh no, eventually we're going to end up going back to Egypt. Remember that? If you read the Parasha, you see exactly that. The Torah records this for us because this is real life, where people sometimes have baggage. Let's call it baggage from the past. And therefore, it gives them a hard time. What's going to be now? So what happens? Hashem wants them to be completely disconnected from Egypt. Completely disconnected. Forget it. You're not going back. How does Hashem convince them of that? Through this powerful miracle. Splits the Red Sea. Brings the Egyptians. You think they already had enough? They had 10 plagues? No. Hashem gets them to come again. That's crazy. Why are you coming again? Just to teach the Jewish people a lesson. They need to learn lessons here. Many, many lessons are going to be learned throughout the 40 years. Hashem yilachem lachem atem tachrishu. Hashem will wage war for you. You won't have to do anything. You don't have to be so afraid. You saw the miracles. You saw who's the boss, didn't you? You forgot so soon. So Hashem brings the Egyptians again. The water splits. They cross, and as soon as they cross, the waters go back, and the Egyptians drown. Now, what happens then? What happens there is very significant. What happens then? Because how do we know that this was a powerful lesson? I just told you that this is a powerful lesson, right? That this is an important lesson, because they were insecure. How do we know that they got something out of this? That this was such an incredible miracle and it had a very, very powerful impact on them. Because it says so. As soon as they saw this, all of a sudden they now feared God, and now they really, really believed in God and believed in Moshe as well, as God's messenger. Wow, I thought they already believed in God before. I thought they already had some fear of God from before too. I mean, just now, all of a sudden, what it means is that now they really got a real strong injection through this miracle. That is why this miracle is important. And then a strong injection of the fear of God, strong injection in emunah in God, something that they didn't have till now, something that they really needed. Why? Because now things became clearer to them. Now everything is a lot clearer. Why does the Torah talk about now the Yirat Hashem, the Emunat Hashem, the fear of God, the faith of God? Because it's not just about mitzvot. You want to succeed in life. When you have enemies like Amalek, you need Yirat Hashem. You need the fear of heaven. You need the faith in God. Because there's a lot of struggles to contend with, a lot of ups and downs in life. Without the fear of Hashem, without the faith in Hashem, it's much more difficult. So how do we test? There's an easy test, by the way, if somebody has Yirat Hashem or not. There's all kinds of ways when you can tell if somebody is God-fearing or not. Try to listen to him what he complains about the most. We're talking about people that complain, right? All the time here, right? What is their complaints about? How come there's not enough food? Where's the water? We're thirsty. That's what you're complaining about? Is that all you care about? That's the most important thing to you is food? Yeah, I miss those onions. That's what you really miss? That's what you want from life is onions, leeks, or whatever? Or is the man, the individual complaining about kirvat Hashem? I'd love to be closer to God. I'd love to be able to observe the mitzvot with happiness. I'm not happy enough when I observe the mitzvot. I don't rush to do it. I don't wake up as early as I would really want to. When a Jew begins to focus more on spiritual matters, and he's bothered by them more than the physical, then you know that Yirat Hashem is strong in him. He cares about these things. Without Yirat Hashem, he's not going to care. Going back to Amalek, that's where the danger of Amalek comes in, that you can have somebody that started off with some level of God-fearing, but he cooled off. And that's dangerous, because that can make all the difference in the world in how a Jew conducts himself in life. How much Yirat Hashem he really has. On that, Hashem says, Shamati et telunot Israel. I heard their complaints. Why tell us that you heard their complaints? Just try to help them out. Hashem is telling us, I'm judging them based on their complaints, what I need to teach them now. I'm going to have to teach them some lessons. Based on these complaints that I'm hearing now, Hashem says, I know on what level they are, even though Hashem knows without listening what level they are. He's telling us, this is an important message. Look at what people complain about, and you'll be able to figure out where they are. All right, so the Jewish people become stronger in Emunah and Yirat Hashem. This is what happened in Shvi'i Shel Pesach. This is what happened on the 7th day of Pesach. This is during the time of the splitting of the Red Sea, a very important achievement for the Jewish people. So what happens after that? Moshe says, okay, this is the time to sing. This is the time to thank Hashem. Az Yashir Moshe. At this point, in this Parasha Beshalach, you find that Moshe all of a sudden opens up and he sings and praises and thanks Hashem for all the miracles that just happened. But wait a minute, Moshe Rabbeinu, can't you wait another 39 years? Or even more? The Jewish people are not done yet. They haven't come yet to their final destination. They still have many battles to fight, many hardships. Now, even though it did not have to be 40 years, but one thing was for sure, there were going to be more battles. Just in conquering the land of Israel, They had to go through wars. They weren't receiving the land of Israel on a silver platter. So even though they have miracles, they still have to go through all kinds of struggles. So why is Moshe singing now? What is this singing all about? So let's describe it as follows. In order to understand what singing is, we need to know a little bit what music is all about, what's involved. Tears, when people cry, there's different kinds of tears. I'm not talking about the tears of smoke or the tears of pain. I'm talking about now the tears of joy. The tears that come out of joy from the eyes, what are they? What's this liquid that's coming out of the eyes? Tears represent an eruption, an outpouring of the emotions. We're all emotional, some more, some less. And when we become very emotional, emotions is from the water element, it comes out as water. It comes out as tears from the eyes. So tears of joy is an outpouring of those strong emotions that have built up. Same thing with the praise and thanking of Hashem. When one really praises and thanks Hashem, it's an outpouring, or it's the ultimate in way of showing your gratefulness to Hashem. You want to show that you're grateful. What are you going to do? You're going to give Hashem a gift? The ultimate expression of gratefulness is by singing to Hashem, by praising Hashem. So all that gratefulness comes out in the form of a song and praise. A song, however, not necessarily a praise, not necessarily an expression of thanks. A song in itself is an expression of the inner happiness in a person. So it's not just about gratitude, but it's also about a certain inner happiness that a person has, which can be expressed in the form of a song, whether it's the tune or whether it's the words or both. That music that the person wants to compose and wants to sing is that expression of the inner happiness that he has. And who feels that inner happiness? The neshama, the soul. It's not something physical. That inner happiness is something spiritual, something that is experienced by the soul. And therefore, there is a need. There's a need for the soul to praise. It feels that this is what it wants to do when he has that inner happiness. And that is why we say in our prayers, Kol ha-neshama te'halel. Kol ha-neshama, the soul, every soul should praise Hashem. It's easier when it is happy, when it has that inner happiness, then of course it wants to. And it expresses it in the form of a song and in the form of a praise as well. Now this soul, at times, is sad. It is the one that sometimes feels depressed, doesn't feel so excited or interested in doing something. So Moshe, at this stage, by singing and praising Hashem, as Yashir Moshe, and the Jewish people as well, they follow Moshe's example, they're being taught that this is the right thing to do, this is the correct thing to do. It's an important thing to do from time to time, is to thank Hashem, to take into account all the miracles that you just experienced, not just to ignore them. Realize that Hashem is in charge, realize the hashgacha, the supervision of Hashem on top of you. So Moshe reminds them, let's not forget what just happened. Therefore, let's thank Hashem and let's do so in the form of a song for all the miracles that we have experienced. What will the song do? Similar to prayer, a song forms a connection with Hashem. Remember, we're talking about something that's spiritual here. The only way we connect with Hashem is in a spiritual way, not necessarily in a physical way. Even though we do physical things, that's just to stimulate our spiritual connection. So we do things physically as well. But the real connection is through the neshama. The neshama, the soul, is a part of God. It's divine. And therefore it wants to connect. The song, the music, the praise, and the prayer enables us to form that connection. Besides enabling us to form that strong connection, it also gives us encouragement. We just said that sometimes the soul feels bad, feels sad, feels depressed. It happens to everyone. So the music, the song, all of a sudden enlightens him, all of a sudden motivates him, stimulates him, and hopefully makes him feel better. Music can change your mood. I'm sure you all know that. So since simcha, joy, music, song, does so much for the neshama, does so much for the connection of the Jew to Hashem, that is why there's an emphasis in the Torah. Hashem says, I want you to serve me with simcha, with joy. Simcha is therefore an important condition for doing the avodat Hashem, service of Hashem, properly, successfully, in a way that it should not just dissipate and disappear, chas v'shalom, God forbid. You want it to be constant, you want it to be regular, you want it to be strong. So simcha, happiness, is a very important concept in Judaism. Chassidut, the Chassidim, put a greater emphasis on that, because several hundred years ago, the ones who began this movement realized that there was a great need for that, more than ever, because of all that darkness in the world, all that danger of Amalek cooling so many Jews off, making them forget what their real purpose in life is. They injected all that simcha and dance and singing and joy. It's not just about physical labor, it's not just about routine prayer. Nah, you got to do it with joy, you got to be happy, be proud of who you are. Otherwise you're going to forget, you're going to cool off, or you may lose interest because there'll be something else that's going to make you happier. Yes, there might be something there that's more attractive to you. So if this is not attractive enough, you might lose interest. So be happy, and don't think that this is easy to be happy. Some people have a very hard time to be happy. So there are all kinds of ways to bring about this happiness, but we need to remember that this is what music does. Turn on the music when you can, yes, if necessary. That is why in the Bet HaMikdash, part of the service was song and music. And who was in charge of that? The Leviim, the Levites. So you have the Kohanim, the priests who were involved in the sacrifices, which was an important job as well, but you had song, you had praise, you had words of thanks that the Leviim performed in the Bet HaMikdash. It doesn't mean that the rest of the Jews did not do so either. Eventually, of course, all of that was put into a prayer book, so that we know what to say, when to say. But even so that it's organized in the prayer book, not everybody says it happily. Not everybody even understands every word he says, and it's a shame. That's why it's important to learn the meaning behind the prayers, to understand the words that we say. And if you do not know Hebrew, do not know how to read the Hebrew, that start off in any language you do understand, because it will be a loss, a tremendous loss, if one would just say words that he doesn't understand. They're so powerful. As we see from Tehillim, from the book of Psalms, how powerful and how beautiful those words are. So, if you want a little bit more information about the importance of music and what it does, I have a whole lecture about music, the language of the soul. It's on YouTube as well. Now I have some revelation for you. I don't know if you knew, but even the animals say Shira. Even the animals sing to Hashem. Even they have words of praise to Hashem. We just don't understand their language. But they too. That is what our tradition teaches us, that even the animals sing to Hashem. Now, who's singing today? Who is singing these days in particular? The birds. Why? Because very soon is Tu B'Shvat. The month of Shvat is a time when we see all the blossoms flowering. As in the Song of Songs, it says in Shir HaShirim, Hanitzanim niru ba'aretz, et hazamir igia ve'kol hator nishma be'artzenu. Hanitzanim, the blossoms can be seen in the land. Et hazamir, the time of song has arrived. And the sound of the Torah, of the turtle dove, can be heard. The birds are chirping, the birds are singing. This is a time when everything is flowering and everything looks so beautiful. What does this mean? It's a form of hitchachut. It's a form of renewal. We go through this every year. The seasons change, and all of a sudden, a certain amount of happiness can be felt. Even the animals are happy. As soon as things turn green, it just does something to us. But this is especially important right before Mashiach comes, this particular verse in the Song of Songs, because it also describes what we will see. Those of us who are lucky, who are fortunate to be around this time, we will see how everything begins to flower. We're hearing the footsteps of Mashiach. We're seeing the signs that his arrival is imminent. So this should fill us with tremendous joy, even though it may be times of trouble, even though it may be times where people are despairing, God forbid losing hope. Focus on what's to come. Don't you see the signs? You can see, Hanitzanim niru ba'aretz, there are all kinds of blossoms, there are all kinds of signs. If you just were to read the prophecies are very clear, just like they didn't make too much sense 300 years ago. Now they make perfect sense. More and more and more, we're seeing how the time is fast arriving, how the Messianic times is fast approaching. The Jewish people are becoming stronger in their emunah with Hashem. They have more and more emunah in Hashem. And that is why the time between Pesach and Shavuot, which is the time when they receive Torah, is 50 days. It takes them 50 days to get out of all that impurity from Egypt, to reach the level where they can receive the Torah. But not only to receive it, but to actually say, I'm ready. Na'aseh v'nishma. Or as they say in Arabic, ala aini wa la rasi. Yes, God, anything you say. Wow, just yesterday you were talking about your onions and your watermelons, and now you want to hear the word of Hashem. So it shows you how far they've advanced, how far they've progressed, spiritually speaking. But what happens when the emunah really becomes strong? What should happen, hopefully, it's not just the focus, it's also bitachon b'Hashem. The more a Jew's emunah becomes stronger, hopefully he will also begin to trust Hashem more, to rely on him. Bitachon means trust or reliance. A lot of people believe in God. God exists, God created the world. Yes, God did all kinds of things. But do you trust him? Do you have complete faith in him? Not necessarily does everyone have complete trust in Hashem. They worry. Why worry if he takes care of everything? Everything that's major in our life, Hashem takes care of it. I mean, we have to do our ishtadut, we have to make certain efforts, of course, to find a job, for example. But the outcome of the job interview, the outcome of whether I will get this particular deal in business, that depends on Hashem. The stronger the emunah, the more bitachon in Hashem. And that is, of course, a higher level of emunah, and it's an important level. A Jew cannot just have simple emunah and not have some bitachon. Bitachon is important in life. A lot of things happen that without bitachon, a Jew may forget what this is all about. He may be afraid. Like the Jews in the early stage of the Exodus, they were afraid, what's going to be next? They didn't have bitachon yet. They barely had a strong emunah. So I have another lecture just about this, the difference between emunah and bitachon, the difference between faith and reliance, for those who want to have a better idea what each one represents. For now, let's just remember that bitachon is a stronger and a higher level form of emunah. In what area do we especially need bitachon? In the area of parnasa, of livelihood. A lot of people make the mistake all the time. They think that you have to have a PhD in order to succeed in life. That your livelihood will come from your Torah, from your degree in college. No. I assure you that there are more people who are wealthier that never went to college than those that went to college. I don't know if those statistics are in every country or not, but that's what they used to say in the past at least. There are a lot of wealthier people, at least in the past. Today, things have changed a little bit because there's a lot of wealthy people who have had some college, so therefore it may not be the best example, but in the past at least, it was easily observable that money did not come from college. Money came from mazal. Depending on what mazal a person was born, he may not even know a word of English.
Right.
He just came from Iran, from Kurdistan, from a small village. And he has beautiful mazal. We see this all the time, that people may be very knowledgeable, but they're barely making ends meet. They're not being so successful.
So it was a bitachon? bitachon?
No, it has nothing to do with bitachon. It has to do with mazal right now. I'm talking about the difference between one who has a lot of mazal versus one who doesn't have such a great mazal. You have attorneys who are wealthy and attorneys who are not so wealthy. Why? Because one knows how to talk better? Not necessarily because of the mazal. So in this area of Parasha, you need to have bitachon. You have to remember that Parasha is min hashamayim, is from heaven. Hashem decides, Hashem puts people in a certain mazal. Now of course, if you pray, Hashem, please help me with my poor mazal, Hashem might listen to your prayers. And of course, we want to continue to pray. We're above the mazal. You can change your mazal, even though it may be difficult, through teshuvah, repentance, through prayer, through charity. You can change it sometimes. But we have to remember that in order for us not to give up, in order for us not to feel bad if things are not going right the way we think they should be, we have to turn to our bitachon in Hashem. Hashem wants it to be so. No one will take away a penny that's coming to you. But he's competing with me. He just opened up a store across the street from me. If you have bitachon in Hashem, he won't take a penny from you. But I can show you he's taking business away from me. Yes, but you're going to see at the end of the year, you're going to receive an inheritance from your aunt. An aunt that you forgot about completely. You didn't even know she existed. There's so many ways. Nobody will impact you economically if it's not meant to happen. Now if Hashem says there's a bad decree against this individual, a decree is something else. Bitachon reminds us that Hashem controls everything. He's the boss and he decides, not we, when it comes to things like livelihood. We have free will whether we will be good or bad. That yes, we do a mitzvah or not. But how much money we make? Healthy, the same thing. Healthy. I mean, obviously, if you don't eat healthy, you're going to be sick. But if you're doing everything right and still something happens, that's up to Hashem. Okay? So we need that bitachon in areas of parnasah and in all kinds of situations where people give us a hard time. He's giving me a hard time. Leave it to him. Leave it to him. And I especially emphasize bitachon in areas of matchmaking. A lot of singles, they're doing everything possibly to find their match. And I tell you the famous story. There was this guy who's complaining to the rabbi, Rabbi, every time the matchmaker suggests someone for me, my neighbor rules it. He goes and talks bad about me. Every single time he ruled it for me. I had so many offers. So what did the rabbi tell him? This is the Chazon Ish. Don't worry, all the ones that he ruled for you were not meant for you. When the real one comes for you, he's going to be out of town, your neighbor. He won't do anything. Nobody can hurt you if it's not meant to be. How are you going to believe in this? If you have bitachon. You see what I mean? So if you have not just emunah, you have bitachon in Hashem, then you know, oh, why did I get off this freeway? I should have gotten off that freeway. I should have gone there. It was meant to be like that. You were following directions, somehow you got off in the wrong exit. Why? Why did this happen to me? If you have bitachon, you won't doubt. You won't complain. Where is my watermelon? You will be focused. This is the way Hashem wants it to be. So how does Hashem teach them bitachon? With the man. You see in this week's parasha, man came down every day. Hashem could have made it that the man comes down once a week. Once a month, they had enough man. And it will stay fresh too. No refrigeration needed. Hashem says, no, I want them to get man every day except for Shabbat. I want them to see that Parnasah is from Shamayim. Every day they're going to get it. Every day I'm going to provide it for them. I want them to learn that Parnasah, man, is from Shamayim. Otherwise, Hashem could have made them find food in the desert somehow. No, let them see where the food comes down from. Let them thank me. Let them realize that livelihood is from above. So this important midah of bitachon has to be taught to children early on. Early on. They should understand they're not as independent as they think they are. Some kids are all excited, oh, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be millionaire, I'm going to do this. It's whatever he decides. Just to finish up, all of these important lessons that are being taught to us are so valuable. But there's always the danger that Amalek might ruin it, might cool one off. He, after all, is a competition, you can call him. He's a competitor. He's competing with the Kedusha. The impure forces are competing against the forces of holiness. And Amalek is the head. And therefore, he's always going to be a danger. So what can a Jew do to distinguish friend from foe? I mean, after all, we deal with all kinds of situations and all kinds of people. How will we always have the clarity to know what is right and what is wrong? Who we should follow, who we should not? If something is good for us, if not, but it's not good for us, how will we always know that? So for that, we go to the incident in this week's Parasha called the incident of Mara. They come close to a place where there's water. They're thirsty, but the waters are so bitter. Remember? The bitter waters, bitter lakes. They're, of course, crying. What are we going to do? We're going to die in thirst. We're going to die from thirst in the desert. Why did you take us out from Egypt? Let's go back. And Hashem tells Moshe, just throw this piece of wood, this piece of tree that was bitter into the bitter waters, and you will see it will become sweet. And that's what happened. All of a sudden, the waters are sweet. A miracle. What is this all about? So the Baal Shem Tov, of blessed memory, used to say as follows. In the words that they are bitter, it's not necessarily talking only about the waters. Kimarim hem, it's talking about them. Sometimes it is the people who are bitter and not what they perceive is bitter. What you see, you're interpreting this as bad, you're interpreting this as bitter, but in reality it is you who is bitter. And when a person is bitter, everything appears to him bitter. So his judgment is faulty. So there's always that, God forbid, always that possibility that we may misjudge situations. So getting back to my question, then what do? Can we just throw a piece of wood into this bitterness? What exactly is the lesson of this? So the Baal Shem Tov is telling us that this is, sometimes the problem is in our perception. It's not that what we see is bad. Nothing is bad that comes from above. Hashem is good, Hashem is kind. It's our perception that may be bitter. So what can we do? So what did Moshe do? What was he told to do? To throw in a piece of wood. The etz, the tree. This is the tree of life. This is the Torah. And therefore, the idea behind this is, we're being told, the only way you can gain any clarity of being able to interpret things properly, being able to figure out things, is only through the Torah. The Torah will give you that clarity. It's not always easy to see what's going on and to interpret it properly. What does this mean? What's going on? You have to be strong in Emunah, you have to be strong in Bitachon Hashem. But in order to stay constantly strong, you have to have the Torah. The Torah is what reinforces us, what recharges our batteries constantly. By learning the Torah, we will be able to acquire the right values and to have that clarity we need. And the Torah, Zat Hashem, will also sweeten any bitterness that may be there. There's a lot of things that are maybe negative, things that don't look good, things that don't look right to us, that make us depressed and sad. Learn Torah. Remember the music? Music does so much for the soul. It gladdens our heart, it makes us happy. The Torah even much more. If a Jew constantly is connected to Torah, his entire life will look a lot more rosy, a lot more positive, and he will be constantly happy as well. Amen.